had a chance to reread this since it first came out, so I'm a little bit.
I only read it today, and it was a super fast skimming of it, and I figure we can just kind of go along in it, and it's.
That's sort of what I'm thinking. I read the whole thing, but that was
okay. We should be live now.
Come on.
All right. Now let's actually adjust it so people's heads are in logical places.
No, I don't want your cookies. Thank you. Gosh.
I need to make cookies still.
I want cookies.
I'm sorry.
No, these are the data kind.
Oh, those cookies.
I don't want your cookies.
I have a problem.
You can't get us to fit.
No, I want cookies.
Sorry.
Cookie.
Well, I'll probably make them.
Oh, sorry, Kamizite.
Yeah. No. Hope she's okay.
Bill is not in his normal location, so I have to adjust the
camera.
The camera. But it sounded so much more like cultured the way Amy said it.
Camera.
Camera.
I have no idea what accent I'm trying to imitate when I do that, but it's fine.
It sounds half Spanish, half Japanese.
Which is my problem, because whenever I try and learn a new language, which does not happen super often, it gets a Japanese little like twist to it, because that's the first language I learned, other than English. But first foreign language I learned.
Jordan, can you move me a little bit lower in the frame?
Yeah. Amy, what does your shirt say?
It says fetching sticks STYX. It's a reference to Lore Olympus. Hades has lots of dogs. This is a sweatshirt that he has, and because he takes his dogs to the dog park.
I feel like Ares would be the one with a lot of dogs, but with the let loose the dogs of war.
Oh yeah. Anyway, in this one, Hades has a lot of rescue dogs. He does have Cerberus. Yes,
he better.
He does.
Because that's the most important part of the Hades video games. The fact that I get to pet Cerberus at the beginning of every single run.
That's just because he's the best boy.
He's a good boy.
And the fact that he's a freaking boss hurts.
Jason, I just saw your chat and I thought it said SOTS woof woof. I was like, I mean, it's appropriate that we're talking about dogs, but I don't understand it. The connection.
What is your girlfriend? Woof.
Did you know that was like, one of the producer's sons who dressed up as who played the girlfriend?
Do we even see a picture of her? Because
because it was just we just saw a picture.
Okay, it's just like a quick like.
What happened is he didn't want to cast a girl only to have the only interaction be your girlfriend. Woof. And so his son dressed up and it loved the part. He's like, I'm going to make a goofy face. This is going to be amazing.
Because I watched Home Alone recently and I didn't see the picture. Like I could see that Kevin was holding it, but I couldn't see the picture itself.
Yeah, it's when he's looking through all the stuff to try and get the money. It's when he accidentally lets the tarantula loose.
Right, Amy, if I can translate Kamizite for you in the comments, because I see you squinting, that means he's finished Oathbringer, and Shalon is his favorite.
Oh, that's good. We like Shalon.
Mm-hmm. She is Little Onion Mage because Shalon is close to Shalot.
Shalot, that's right. I do remember that. Yes.
And I keep thinking it's because she has layers, but
it's dual meaning, It works for both.
No, he decided that back in book 1.
It's okay.
Which he called the Way of Kings, spelled Whey, and made just too many cheese puns.
But it's
cheese is curds, not whey.
Look, I'm telling you, this is what I'm dealing with here.
I'm sorry, Kami, but we may have to remove your cheese pun privileges for a time.
Her power set is pretty cool. Except I'd have to be a much better artist because my illusions would not look good.
You don't get her powers set, Kamizite. We did the test. You're a will shaper.
Oh, really?
Yep. I felt proud because I predicted it correctly. But I believe Lightweaver was your number 2, wasn't it, Kamizite?
Oh, this is an interesting new little thing that my computer's doing for me.
Oh.
I'm moving I'm resizing a window, and the window that it was right next to resized right along with it.
It's worrying.
Okay. I'll message you. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. We do have a cosmic thing of the week.
I don't have one.
For some reason, it sounds very lyrical the way you're typing. Or not lyrical. I guess just musical. I don't know. Rhythmic.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good one.
Even though it's technically not Cosmere, it's adjacent.
It's adjacent. It's fine.
Jordan, don't play Balatro while we're streaming.
I'm going to play Balatro while we're streaming. Also, I may have accidentally clicked the wrong thing. And I'm trying to figure out how Balatro opened, which has me concerned. Where? There's the issue. Sometimes, due to the way things are set up, my computer thinks it has 5 monitors when really it's just one monitor that can be accessed 2 different ways, and it's sometimes triggered thanks to my laptop, my work laptop. And so my mouse got off and activated Balatro, which then showed up on that screen, so I couldn't figure out where it was launching.
Is that an online game or?
Balatro's on everything. It's basically if poker got a sequel and it was a roguelike. And it is It is awesome and just horribly
addictive.
As weird a
description as that is, it's oddly fitting from what I've seen.
No, if you like roguelikes and you like card games, Balatro is just pure crack cocaine and wonderful. And what's funny is it has like a mature rating in Europe because technically it promotes gambling. Because you're playing a form of poker.
You're not.
Yeah, because you're not even playing against someone. It's just like, get this score this high. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, you're right. He is typing to the rhythms of Roshar Dysgraphic.
I can hear the rhythms. I can hear the rhyme.
I was just about to go there as well.
It's Cosmere time.
It's Cos-sled time.
Will
you go penguin sledding with me?
Hey, so where did you post this Cosmere thing of the week?
In Zencaster.
It's also in
Oh,
the chat on.
Sorry.
As an option. What do you think?
Do you have a link to it? I'm trying to find it.
It's in the show notes, which are not.
Do you want me to find a picture?
Hang on, I can put it up.
We'll just see if I can find it real quick.
Copy link. Okay, here's a link to the show notes.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'm not pulling up the spreadsheet. So Amy, if you want to put it in the spreadsheet, you can.
I will put it in the spreadsheet.
Otherwise, I'm not worried about it being in the spreadsheet, but I know Amy likes to have it as
I like to have the thingies.
It's her little blanket.
It's great. I put it in the wrong one. To go there. Bah, go. They're like my cue cards or something. Oh my goodness.
There we go. Okay. Then I just need to... Oh, that actually works just fine. Perfect. All right. I am ready whenever you guys are now.
Okay, I'm just making sure I've got everything in.
You know, I'm gonna quickly wipe myself.
Goodness, why are my hands always freezing?
Because you have no blood.
I know, it's terrible. My circulation is crap.
Mine too. Okay, I'm trying to understand French toast in the rain.
I'm guessing that is probably Rhythm of War, because if it finished Oathbringer, it'd probably be... Unless...
How is that French toast in the rain, though?
Unless it's not supposed to be Dawn Shard, is it?
It's supposed to be Dawn Shard.
Oh, so yeah.
All right. First of all, Communite, that's almost not true. In Communite, if you don't explain French toast in the rain, you're going to derail the entire episode, so you better explain yourself.
Don't... And you say that to him, he's thinking, don't threaten me with a good time.
No, he only derails my stuff. He respects you too.
I don't understand why.
Me neither.
It's fine. It's fine.
Don't question good fortune. All right, are you two ready?
I think so.
Just to let you know, Bill, we are Uber picking up all your mouse and keyboard stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have my boom, and so
yeah, just letting you know.
Yep. So you even hear that?
Yeah, we can even hear your mouse wheel.
Wow.
So scroll slowly.
Okay. I think we're good.
All right. Ready when you are.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, Sixers, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. This is episode 178, to be specific. Today is December 29th, 2024. That's right, we are doing our last podcast of the year. I am Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my administrative co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
I got a promotion.
Promotion?
To administrator, apparently.
Oh, apparently.
Yeah.
Before we get started, we do want to remind you that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. That means if there's something in the Cosmere that you haven't read and you're worried about hearing spoilers, it might be a good idea to go read those first, then come back and join the discussion. Now, who knows how that's going to go with today's episode, because we're not really talking about any specific books as they are, but there's also some speculation on future books, so who knows what's going to come out of our mouths tonight. So just be careful, but it should probably be a little bit safer, but proceed at your own risk. Because tonight we are talking about the 2024 State of the Sanderson Post. We'll go into what that means in just a little bit. But for those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube after the fact, we do want to remind you that it's possible for listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. We record episodes every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us and take an active part of the discussion. The show is, of course, made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. It will continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Even pledging $1 or $2 per episode really helps us out as we continue to work to improve the show. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. We've got a great community over there. We've got some amazing discussions, and there's a lot going on right now after the most recent release of Wind and Truth. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and other good stuff. Oh, how are y'all doing?
I survived Christmas.
You're not upstairs.
I'm not upstairs. I mean, there's no downstairs where I am. So, I mean, I guess I am downstairs actually where I am because there is an upstairs. So,
technical basement dweller.
Yeah, I am streaming from the deep south in Alabama where my family lives and where I originally grew up. So if my accent starts coming out, probably won't because I'm not directly around the strongest accented members of my family, but just in case.
We'll keep you like a Yankee, right?
Huh?
We'll keep you like a Yankee.
No, don't even joke.
Sorry.
Yeah, Amy.
Sorry, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. You don't have these struggles.
I'm just saying, that's an epithet here.
No.
So,
I can never spell that word. I always put the T's in the wrong spot.
It's
epithet. E-P-I-T-H-E-T.
For some reason, I always spell it epithet, and I don't know why.
Epithet. So it's the H that you put in the wrong place.
I guess it actually is. Yeah, now that I think about it.
All right, then. Well, yeah, I've been traveling and I am exhausted, but of course I'm going to be traveling shortly. Like I'm going to be coming back to Utah and then taking off in under a week after that. So it's all kinds of nuts. Yeah, that's actually why we're streaming tonight on Sunday instead of on Monday, because I will be sitting in a chair in the sky tomorrow night.
If you need me, I'll be up in the clouds.
I've been skiing again for the first time in a long time, and we're probably going to go skiing again tomorrow. So,
nice.
Oh, you said skiing.
Skiing.
First, I thought you said seeing, and I'm like, I thought you already had LASIK.
Use my eyeballs.
No, so did y'all give or get any particularly noteworthy gifts this year?
We as a family got Rivendell, the Lego set, and it's all built.
I saw you post about that. That looks really cool.
It's huge.
I got an epic gift. It was called a planner for next year and a couple video games. Nothing really too exciting.
Cool. Well, Jordan gave me a pretty cool one, which is sitting right outside his room, which is a Barad-dûr dice tower.
Ooh.
So he's basically saying if I am planning to at some point DM a game of the Stormlight Archive or the Cosmere role playing game, then I need a proper dice tower. So
am I wrong?
You're not wrong. Not even a little bit. I also got 5 different cookbooks this year, hardback.
Holy cow!
Altogether, it was about 18 pounds worth. So I actually shipped those back to myself, medium mail. So those actually should arrive probably when I'm on my way to my next destination. And then I got several DVDs. My sister basically went straight down my Amazon wish list and said, okay, we'll get that, and that.
Oh, nice.
But she also got me it's a meter thermometer, MEAT, which is, it's a Bluetooth thermometer, like meat thermometer that you can stick into the meat, and then it'll send it to your phone and you can check that way.
Oh, nice.
It's high quality stuff. So I'm excited about that. But
apparently someone in chat got a batleth.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Sorry to derail. I just thought that was way interesting.
That's awesome.
That's
well, the cool one that I gave this year is several years ago when my grandparents passed away. My mom, one of the things that she received was their piano, because my mom plays the piano, and along with that came a piano bench with a really, really detailed needlepoint that my mom had done when she was in college as part of a campus beauty pageant type thing.
Oh, okay.
Like that was one of the talent portions was, and they had a crafting portion, and she did needlepoint. And she said she spent 100 hours on it. So my mom had given that to me, but the legs of it have been broken ever since I got it. And it's been broken enough that it was really difficult to get repaired. It had been repaired about a dozen times before. And what happened is my brother has a wood shop at his home here in Alabama. And so when he was out, he crafted that hammer that Jordan just held up.
Oh, nice.
Only the worthy may lift it.
But when he was out for a family reunion in July, my mom keeps asking if I can find somebody to fix this bench. And while he was out there, he took a look at it. He was like, I can't fix this here, but I could at home. And I was like, honestly, I would love it for mom to have this piano bench. She loves it. And so he took it home, like he pulled it into individual pieces of wood, just like broke it completely down, carted it back to Alabama, and then rebuilt it from the ground up, stripped all of the stain off and restained it, and just made it really, really gorgeous. And so my mom saw it. She got really emotional. It was wonderful. Aww. And yeah, it was just a special thing. It was kind of cool.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah. Okay, so should we move on into the announcements?
Sure.
All right, Jordan, how is our push to full monetization going? Are we doing any better than we were last time? Because we dropped
slightly. People are still reading, but
okay.
Oh, where did I have it? Oh shoot, did it end up on the non-existent window when I moved stuff? It'll just be faster to go looking for it rather than finding what window it's on. We're killing time. Yes, there's a huge jump because we were in the we got over 100 watch hours in the past week. So wow. We're in 3,400. So we were at around 25%. We're now at 40% of the way.
Very nice.
So yeah. So everyone, thank you so much.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more coming, obviously, with the Wind and Truth. So as some of you are now probably new fans, because you've probably all caught up for the first time and you're now looking for stuff. Hi, welcome to our back catalog. And by the time you've heard this will be in the back catalog. So
it's fine.
This is so meta. Anyway, also our Kolos Head Munching Day cards have been sent out to our patrons.
Some people have gotten them.
Thank you so much for it. We've gotten some good feedback already on them. People like the images
a fun
here.
Image, yeah.
Yeah, some hero drew it.
That was drawn by Little Jordy.
Yep.
So.
Age 39 for one more day.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or negative 1 days if you're listening to this when it comes out. It's meta again.
Awkward. Actually, -2. It's just all craziness. But yeah, so for our patrons, again, thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
You're the best.
Okay, well, on that note, let's move into the... Oh, goodness, I can't find it. Everything's in a different place. Let's move into the... So this Cosmere thing of the week isn't necessarily something new. It's something that honestly most of you watching are probably fully aware of, but just to reiterate, this is also Cosmere adjacent. Dragonsteel will be producing fancy leather-bound editions of all of the Wheel of Time books, which I'm actually genuinely excited about. I'll probably be spending too much money on these as well. And we actually have, they did a YouTube video preview just sort of the concept 3D images that they created for it, and they're going to be gorgeous. I mean, this is one of Brandon's favorite series that he actually has taken part in as well.
And Brandon's fully admitted this whole entire project is just so he can get good Wheel of Time leather bounds.
I think he became a writer so he could get really good Wheel of Time leather
Very
bounds.
True.
So, like this is his long game that he started when he was a child.
Of course.
So, but you should definitely check them out. I'm excited about these, and what they're going to be doing is they're going to be releasing one every year, starting towards the end of 2025. I think is what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
And then just for the next 14, 15 years, we'll be getting new Wheel of Time, new old Wheel of Time, but it'll be really fancy. It'll have new artwork. It'll have a new layout, all the nice stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, let's move into the Sanderson news, because there was only one video in the past 2 weeks, but there was a lot in it. First off, the State of the Sanderson happened. Guess what we're talking about tonight?
State of the Sanderson.
It happened.
It's very
also,
true.
Wind and Truth has hit #1 on both the New York Times and the USA Today bestseller lists. New York Times is cool, but USA Today is even harder because all of the books are conglomerated into a single category, while New York Times splits it up to like fantasy books and all.
Which I did not know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that about the USA Today.
Harder. Huh?
At least, I didn't know that about the USA Today.
Yep. So, also, Tress has popped onto the New York Times bestseller list.
That also
so
surprised
cool.
me.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. Just that's one a lot of people are now recommending for their first Brandon book.
A lot of people are, yeah. I wouldn't recommend it myself, but there are certain people that it might be a good entry point for. Also, if you want notifications for the Wheel of Time leatherbounds that will be coming out, sign up for Brandon's newsletter on the website on brandonsanderson.com, I believe. You might be able to sign up for it on dragonsteel.com as well. Also, I can't remember if we've talked about it, but were y'all aware of the Brandon upresed art?
Yeah, I didn't see the finished images until like after our last podcast because I didn't know where they were. Yeah. But I did see part of the Intentionally Blank podcast episode where he was doing his really bad sketches.
Yeah, so there was an episode where, was it Howard Lyon came on?
Yeah.
And he was doing these just Brandon's amateur sketches, and then they gave each of them to various professional artists, and they turned that art into art.
Yeah.
It was art before, Bill. I don't know what you're talking about.
Different level of art.
It was art adjacent.
Different kind of art. They metamorphosed it from its pupil state into a beautiful butterfly. Let's see. We already talked about the Nerdforge enormous editions of Stormlight because those are amazing and huge and ginormous, and now there's only one of each of them, and Brandon has signed them all, and Nerdforge has signed them all, and so they're probably worth like more than my house. So,
yeah.
But Brandon gets them, and he gets to keep them, so nobody's selling them anyway.
And even if you steal them, it's going to be really obvious when you try and sell them.
Yeah, you can't hide that under your shirt and sneak out the back. Brandon did a bunch of interviews at Nexus, not with us, because we're not that cool just yet, but Nerd of the Rings did one, Travis Gafford did one, and now Brandon is taking 2 weeks off, so there won't be any more updates until sometime in January, at which point Brandon is expecting to give us a bing on Ghostbloods. So keep an eye out for that, because Ghost Bloods.
Only 4 years. Anyway.
4 years. I mean, that's how long we waited for this Stormlight book after the last one.
Like I said, only 4 years.
Yeah, we can make it to that. And when we start getting that, we'll be getting Mistborn and Elantris. Like, we're getting 2 books a year again. It's like the good old days.
Which, again, how spoiled are we?
Oh, we are so spoiled. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I choose not to brag about it or anything because, it doesn't look good compared to a lot of the other fantasy authors.
I don't care because I've been in those fandoms as well, and I'm just like, no, I had to suffer, so I can brag about this one.
No,
you're over here. I've done my time.
Exactly.
There's another author that I follow, Wen Spencer, and she had like 10 years between one of her books, and it was like on a big cliffhanger too. Oh, I don't know when the next one's coming out, so it's still on a cliffhanger, because of course.
And it's only 7 years and not 10 years, at least expected for the next Stormlight book. So,
and we're getting other good things too. So
we're getting lots of good things.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think Jordan might be more excited for more Ghost Bloods.
Oh yeah, no, like the entire concept of Era 3 is just like, as soon as he said it, it's like I went into like I think I got diabetic coma because I was like, that is, oh my goodness,
that's
it's like
not how that works.
No, I think it happened though.
No,
like it was basically sugar injected into my veins. It's everything I wanted.
No, there's so much wrong with what you just said.
I basically have a perfect understanding of how the human body works.
You really don't. How long have you been my roommate and you don't understand how diabetes works?
Look, frankly, I have been indulging you in your diabetes habit for far too long.
I need it.
That's what the drugs want you to think.
I do have a problem and I can't stop whenever I want to.
Sad.
Okay, well, let's move on into our main discussion of the state of the Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for our listeners who may not be aware, the state of the Sanderson is a blog post that Brandon has been putting up for years and years and years and years. And this is just another reason that we're spoiled as Brandon Sanderson fans, because he likes to keep us up on what's going on in Sanderland.
And he even has a comment in the introduction where he's like, this is the stuff I wish I'd gotten from authors.
Exactly.
So I'm making sure you guys get it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I think Brandon is so engaged with his audience, is he is also a fan himself, and he recognizes, okay, this is what I would want, so I'm going to try and give it to them. So he basically every year puts out a blog post where he says, hey, this is what I've been up to this last year. This is what I'm expecting this next year. And here are some other things that might be interesting. Now, over the past 2 or 3 years, he started actually having his Dragonsteel team chiming in and adding their own bits to it. Because it used to just be, this is Brandon sitting down and doing everything. Because he's been doing this since it was just Brandon.
Yeah.
And it's always a very, very, very long post. It comes out on Koloss Head Munching Day, which is on December 19th, and just happens to also coincide with Brandon's birthday. It's an amazing coincidence.
It really is when you think about it.
I know, it's crazy.
So last year it came out a little bit late, but that's just because, Dragonsteel is going crazy. And I think that might have been the first year that he had all of the people in his team kind of chime in and say, hey, look, we're doing stuff too.
Yeah.
Well, that was also the first, because that was the first, what was it? The fan holders meeting. First year we did that.
We did have a fan holders meeting last year at Nexus, or I'm just going to call it Nexus in retrospect, even though it wasn't called Nexus then.
Yeah.
It's okay. I still haven't been to one of the fan holder meetings.
They're good. They're worth checking out.
Yeah. It's just, I really like the move to finding out the entire team. Partially because in some ways it's sort of the like watching the behind the scenes features on a DVD, because you get to find out all the little things that are going on behind the scenes, and I like seeing how the sausage gets made.
Well, Brandon's also allowing it so that he's not the entire face of Dragonsteel. He's like, I need to write, so we still need more faces. So congratulations, you've been promoted.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, especially from at least, from the perspective of we've been doing this for a little bit. And, like when we had Kara on, this was before we even had the mini con.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing.
That's how we found out about mini con.
Yeah. And
that's right. Yeah.
And so seeing like her talk about Dragonsteel compared to where they were, it's interesting seeing Isaac talk about what books he's writing, which that's a very different. I don't know. I love this. This is a ton of fun.
Yep. Well, and he even starts off just going right for the jugular for Jordan. He posted an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh man, yeah. I love me some Excel.
So
basically a video game.
So yeah, so for the first half of the year, Stormlight 5 revisions. We've gotten Stormlight 5, talked about that last week. We'll be talking about it a lot in the future as well. So then for June 5th through June 19th, let's fritz out a few people's minds. The Emperor's Soul screenplay.
That one was shocking.
I was like, who, what?
I was not expecting this.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
As a concept of what could be first, like
this would definitely have to be like an art piece, I think.
Yeah.
It's so internal and thinky.
And he even says he's like, it heavily leans into the artsy side, like the screenplay that he did. So I'm like, at least it fits with the book. And
so his worry is about how filmable it is, but at the same time, it's just like, you give this to the right director, it could actually be really interesting.
You'll be good, yeah.
Well, and I like it as a concept of, it's a perfect thing for like a streaming service, for example, where maybe a movie, theater, it's like, this is a bit too out there for, a wide release.
And the nice thing is, if you could figure out how to do the effects and not have them be super expensive, you could have your sets very minimal because most of it takes place in one room. And I mean, there's little bits here and there, but you could keep it very small scale wise, like locations and things like that.
Yeah,
that would probably cut down on cost.
Yeah, it made me. It's just, I was so glad to see it, obviously, but it's just I'm shocked that this is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's what happened.
Yeah. Like I said, this is my favorite thing that Brandon's written, which is also why there is a part of me that's very, very nervous. Because this is one, if you give it to the right director, it could be amazing. It's also one, if you give it to the wrong director, it could just be bad. And I don't want The Emperor's Soul to be bad.
At the same time, I like the idea of that's the scale of project you go for first. I've always kind of thought the going for the Mistborn thing first is a bit of a, like, that's a big gamble, right? Because if it doesn't work out, that's going to scare off a lot of future projects.
And it kind of sets Mistborn in stone as a bad movie for a while before they're willing to try it again.
Exactly. And
then you have your cult followers who love the original version and will hate the new version coming out, and it's all you want to do well the first time with this one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, and obviously this is not the main thing, but for me, I really liked it. I loved him breaking down the Hollywood process.
Yeah, that's later in the thing, but that was interesting to have it broken down at its steps. And he does acknowledge several times that he's like, it may not work out in this exact same order, because sometimes this part will already be prepped ahead of time, and so you can kind of skip past it and move around. But it was nice to see generally how things work that way.
Yeah, it just, the thing is this is something that Brandon's learning too. And so he's now gotten probably a pretty hefty crash course in this stuff.
Well, I mean, he kind of gives us a bit of one later down in the post.
Yeah, and so getting the those steps of how it works, and finding out how close Mistborn was
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The line, yes, there's people attached to it. No, I can't tell you who they were.
No, it was not Henry C. And I'm like, oh man, it would have been so cool.
Yeah.
We could make it Henry C, though, right?
I can just enjoy him as the Witcher and in the 40K stuff, however that works out. So that'll be fine. Oh, yeah, fingers crossed. Knock on wood. There we go. Sorry, that was loud. Anyway, yeah, and then June, yeah.
So June, he then basically developed a full coherent version of The Girl Who Looked Up, because there has been talk about creating a Hoyd storybook collection that I am very, 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 very excited about. The Hoyd stories are some of my favorite parts of any of Brandon's writing, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, and it was something I hadn't considered, the fact that we don't really have a definitive version, since it was told over two different stories.
By two different storytellers.
Yeah.
Yep.
But even like, it made me start thinking, I'm like, even his like The Dog and the Dragon and Fleet and stuff like that, it's a dialogue that's going on between him and Kaladin. And so even that's not really a definitive storytelling. The only one I can think of that is like a definitive storytelling that he's done, at least with the Rosharan ones, is Mishim, because he was literally doing a storytelling presentation in the middle of Kolinar.
Yeah, he was. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get interrupted or anything with that one.
So
yes, it'll be cool. And then just again, an illustrated version of this story would be awesome. And there's so many awesome artists that could do very different versions of this, and each of them would be awesome to see.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the stable of artists they now have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh gosh, their art department is getting so much bigger, and I love it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Let's see. So July, he was doing his revisions for Isles of the Emberdark, aka Secret Project number 5.
Is that one? Oh yeah, next number 5. Okay.
Because this is the story that's gonna come out and be our sequel to Six of the Dusk.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like it's going all kinds of stuff. We've got dragons, we've got spaceships, we've got like
dragons.
This is Brandon just saying,
okay,
let's just sort of go.
Gloves are totally off, and we just go. It'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah.
We might actually get to see Frost in universe, like in canon, because we haven't really seen him in canon. We've only seen him in that one scene of The Traveler.
Yeah, and I guess this isn't published yet, so that's why it's not canon, because we know that we see him in that.
In what?
In Isles of the Emberdark.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
So
the way you said it made it sound like we hadn't read the scenes where he's in them. That's why I got thrown off.
No. But I'm saying we'll see more of him and actually interact with him, and because all we've seen in published canon of him so far is the letters.
Yeah.
So no, I'm excited for this one. I'm very excited for this one.
Mm-hmm.
When was that supposed to come out again?
That one is supposed to be summer, I think.
2026.
Releasing next year for those who participated in the Words of Radio. So, I think it's supposed to be sometime around summer. I could be wrong on that, but that's
later
for some
on.
reason,
He has
I feel like
where he lists out where he expects stuff to come out, so we can double check with that.
Yeah, we'll double check when we get back down to that.
Yeah.
August to September, he did Moment Zero, which is going to be the centerpiece of the Tailored Realities non-Cosmere short fiction collection that will be the Dragonsteel Nexus centerpiece next year.
Mm-hmm. And no spoilers for anybody who doesn't want it, but that was way better. Not that I don't like his non-Cosmere stuff, but that was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Because I didn't really know what to expect from the plot, from the little. But then him reading the scenes that he did, wow, that was different and very interesting.
No, I'm definitely excited. it's Dragonsteel Nexus is going to be interesting next year, because like this year was probably one of the biggest it will ever be until we get to the end of, Stormlight and the end of Mistborn and the end of the Cosmere.
Yeah.
And this one will likely be a smaller one, but I think because this one was so big, there's still so many people who just want to go to Dragonsteel Nexus anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how the response to Nexus next year is. So
I mean, because we've had the Cytonic and stuff like that, like those ones, but it was still growing then, and now it was huge.
Well, and now they blew it out this year, and of course now they've probably convinced the Salt Palace that yes, we can handle more space. Give it to us. Give it to us. Give it to us now. And it'll be weird though, going from this explosive one to what is an exciting release, but probably a smaller audience.
Yeah. Well, especially you're definitely not going to get like as many people coming from Europe and South America the way you did this year. Because they're like, okay, this is the one trip I'm going to make.
That I'm going to do, yeah.
Which hopefully with them, announcing, I mean, they announced it at Dragonsteel, but that they're going
doing the Spain one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to Spain this year. Hopefully that means a lot of the fans the
European ones can get there. Yeah.
Right. So, and then October to November, Brandon started his White Sand Prose version. He didn't finish it, but
he got progress on it.
He got a lot of progress. This is basically what he's doing, is he's trying to make it so that all of the canon lines up between the prose version and the comic. the not the comic, what's it called? Graphic novel version. This is going to be kind of the definitive. I mean, it'll have the same canon as the graphic novel so that you can read it either way if you want and still
get the same story
thing. But I think a lot of people are definitely looking forward to a canon official prose version that they can read like normal with the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's always interesting when authors try to branch out into various media, but it also gets confusing for the fans. You can basically run into the whole Kingdom Hearts situation where the games came out on multiple different things. Then there's books, then there's, who knows what else.
Well, it's like when you and I talked about, like if you're trying to follow the Metroid canon. Yeah, it's like, all right, let's get the first game is on the NES, but the second game is on the Game Boy, but the third game's on the Super Nintendo, and then the fourth game is on the Game Boy Advance, but they made a remake for the first game also on the Game Boy Advance, and you're just like, okay, I need a flow chart to decide what to do.
And that's before we even get to Metroid Prime.
Heavens.
But yeah, so he worked on the White Sand Prose version, which just so people are aware, the first version of White Sand is the very first book that Brandon wrote. So there's something a little bit special about this one, in my opinion. He then had rewrote it from the ground up, and so this will kind of be his third prose version of the book, and this will be the final canon version.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to be a very interesting process, just because he talks about how, this is it's not the same thing as rewriting a new book from scratch, but, going over a 30-year-old manuscript.
Right.
It is very, because I mean, this is before Elantris, which most people say like, oh, this is kind of his weakest work, in terms of actual prose. And he's now looking at his own work 30 years later. And unlike a lot of things, he actually can go back and be like, okay, I'm embarrassed by this scene. Like, I can do this so much better now. And, this character just didn't work in the original one, but now I can update it. And this magic system wouldn't fit in the current version of the Cosmere. Like, because we're seeing that they're running into that with Mistborn, where they're like, ooh, there's clearly some mechanic they're worried about with Adium, and we might need to retcon how things are working. It's like, okay, well, I actually can retcon this, and it's not actually going to be retconning because I'm just coming back to something that's 30 years old that never officially got published.
Yeah, he's clarifying things.
And it did officially get published as the graphic novel, but this is him saying, okay, this is what a lot of people have been asking for, because a lot of people want the prose version. A graphic novel is a different medium, and it's not the way that everybody experiences story well.
Yeah. And you don't get as much with the internal thoughts and other things like that. You can convey some things really well, and other things are more difficult to convey.
Yeah, there was a lot that the graphic novel lost just because it didn't have Brandon's style of writing.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those, I look at it and I think to myself, I actually really would enjoy a graphic, like a series of Cosmere graphic novels, like Tales of the Cosmere or something, where they're working with some artist they really like, and they're telling maybe shorter stories that just wouldn't really work elsewhere. But it's just like, as an actual, this is your story. Introduction to a very kind of an important world. And, oh, by the way, that lady who's writing like all the Ars Arcanum, she's kind of important to everyone. Yeah, this is her introduction. And it's like, oh, here?
And just in case you weren't aware, she has got a fabulous sense of style. So
she does. She's very, very fashionable.
When she showed up in the graphic novel, I was just like, oh, that's Chris. Okay, that's not how I pictured her.
I wasn't expecting Southern Belle.
I pictured her a mite more bookish, and so.
Well, you can be bookish and dress well. You never know.
She wore glasses. What more do you want?
Bookish and mousy, and you know what I'm talking about.
I'm just poking you. It's fine.
So, but she, her first panel where she shows up is just like
big hat.
Check her out. Oh, she's great. I love her.
She looks like she's ready to go to Easter service,
and she's got some amazing sunglasses. Which as you think about it, she lives on dark side. It makes sense that on day side she might need some sunglasses.
Yeah.
So, okay. So after White Sand came December, and that was Nexus, the State of the Sanderson, and finishing up Moment Zero. So, and that's kind of what we've just been living through this past month. So we won't go into that too deep. We are planning on doing a retrospective on Dragonsteel Nexus, which there was a lot that went down at Dragonsteel Nexus. There's so much to talk about. Yeah. So that'll be fun. Okay, should we move on into the updates?
Sure.
Okay. So, Stormlight Archive.
Bye-bye.
Wind and Truth is out. Stormlight Archive is going to sleep for a little while.
Taking a nap.
Yeah. It
used all its cooldowns.
It was a 15-year effort to get this sequence done. I was like, he started writing this about 15 years ago. That's nuts. And that's nothing compared to other writers.
Yeah.
The bigger note's the fact he got there.
He does have a novella that he's planning on writing, which supposedly takes place during book 4. It's called Horn Eater, and it's about rock. And I am excited about that because what has been going on with our favorite Unkalaki?
I'm nervous-sided because I'm nervous and excited because it could go very bad.
The Funkalaki.
Yeah, because Brandon's been kind of cagey about what happened to rock after he went back up to the Horn Eater Peaks. And we know some bad stuff went down, and like Odium had some fun up there. So who knows what's going on with him right now?
I'm sure it's fine. Nothing happened.
But that will probably be, he said he's planning to write that in about 18 months to give us just a little taste while we're waiting for book 6.
Just a taste.
Yeah. So.
Gotta give him a taste.
Just taste it. And then, Jordan, do you want to tell us what's coming after that?
Sorry, I had the wrong
You're not looking at it? Next is Mistborn. And
I was at the wrong spot. To be honest, and this is stupid, I was looking at all the countries that they're localizing through. And I lost where we were. But yes.
Okay, so yeah, Mistborn Era 3 is coming up next.
Well, and I thought it's interesting the fact that he sort of looks back at the advantage the original Mistborn trilogy had, where because he wasn't a discovered writer, they're waiting a long time between books. It let him go back and really edit things, make it nice and tight in a way that you wouldn't normally get for a trilogy. And he's decided he really wants to sort of make that a piece of what the Mistborn series is, because he's now tasted doing it a little more seat of the pants, and he's like, yeah, I want to edit this a little more.
Well, I mean, Era 2 wasn't supposed to exist.
Yeah. Well, but even with it wasn't supposed to exist, if you remember, it got so bizarre that he was struggling with the Shadows of Self. And so he then went and wrote Bands of Mourning and then went back to Shadows of Self, which tells you something about how he sort of needs to have the end in mind to get what he wants done.
Yeah, especially for Mistborn. It just the way that those books flow and the scale of because the scale is very different in Mistborn and Roshar, largely just because it takes place in a much more narrow space, but it still has huge consequences, while Roshar is a huge space and huge consequences, but also oddly local consequences at the same time.
Yeah, there's a certain, I don't even know what the word is, but it should, things, it's weird because we haven't seen Scadrial have like we've seen the glimpses of the future, but we haven't really seen what they're doing in the future. We just know that they do matter. And so it's one of those, I get why he really wants to make sure that he nails this.
Yeah.
Because,
well, and then again,
it's kind of important.
And I love the setting is sort of a 1980s spy thriller type of book.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for all those 80s spy thriller things. So I'm looking forward to it. We're dealing with the Ghost Bloods, although I am so worried about the text he used in this. Didn't he say what was it? Spiteful Era 1 characters or something? Spite-filled. Yeah.
And the fact
I'm thinking Marsh.
I think since he said characters, it makes me think that Kelsier is still. I mean, obviously Kelsier's doing something, so that's probably.
Yeah, well, we know three. Like we have the trio of Sazed, Marsh, and Kelsier.
Oh, Sazed. Okay.
Well, and then Spike-filled, we've also got Tensoon.
Yes. And the Khandra, yeah.
So I am definitely looking forward to these. This will be very, 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 very interesting. And again, this will be him getting back to one of the original trilogies that he planned for the series. So he's planning this ahead of time, and he's been planning on having this for 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome.
Don't get me wrong. I love Wax and Wayne. I absolutely love that, but I'm excited to get to, because he originally imagined Mistborn as a trilogy of trilogies. He wanted Era 1 to be our sort of pre-industrial revolution era. Then Era 2 is our modern era. And then Era 3 is our future era. And now there will be at least one other trilogy, and I think he's fairly set on doing the Cyberpunk trilogy, which will again give us 16 mainline books.
Many books. And as someone who does things for purely bit reasons, I am so happy with him.
I'm thrilled about it.
The other thing that's interesting about this is the fact that we've seen the fact that, again, there's obviously going to be implications for Scadrial going out into the Cosmere. And it just makes me think really hard about the fact that Brandon's really trying to make sure he nails this. And it's like, okay, why are you so concerned about this? What's different here, Brandon? And the thing that might be different is I've now written successfully, if we can call Stormlight 1 through 5 sort of Era 1 of Stormlight Archive. he's now successfully written 3 eras of his books.
Mm-hmm.
And which, if you just think about it in those terms, how rare an opportunity that is for a writer.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's got a better feel for how these things fit together. And I think he's sort of over here like, oh crap, I gotta plan a lot harder for this than even, me, who's, one of the better outliners out there, anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and now that he has the team to help him really polish this out and lay it out and just make sure it all works.
Yeah, because he's got, we knew there was world hopping going on, but now there's even more evidence of it. And so we're going to be even more eagle-eyed for, wait, you don't fit in with this. And there's more activity going around.
Well, and he's he'll be putting more in blatantly ever since, when the Lost Metal came out, he said, after this, the gloves are off.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that happening in a lot of the books that have come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy.
It was all over in Wind and Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Wind and Truth and Lost Metal, it is all over the place.
Oh man, yeah.
Which there's a part of me that mourns the subtlety, but I totally get why it's in there. So I loved the little nods and.
Well, the thing I liked about it was, I liked from his perspective, him talking about how he had been told by so many, editors and publishers, it's like, oh no, you don't do stuff like this. Nobody likes this, blah, blah, blah. And then he interacts with his fans, and his fans are always like, these are our favorite parts. And he's just sitting here like, okay, so they're telling me nobody likes this. Yet every time I interact with everyone who's a fan of it, they're like, this is all we love. If I didn't know any better, I'd say someone's wrong.
and who's buying the books?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Brandon, he loves his fans and he wants to give.
Does.
And the thing is, it's not like, and this is the thing I like what he said about it. This is that, 3 Dragon Steels ago, where he talked about how, so at this point, I'm going to be telling you, start directing fans to maybe these standalone books or Mistborn or, where because it's not like those introductory books aren't there. Like, he's not telling people, yeah, it's time to throw everyone in the deep end, sink or swim, nerds. He's telling, it's like, look, the beginning stuff is there to ease them into this connected world. And if it's not for them, we're glad you tried. It's not, there's no insecurity behind it. And I think that's what I just love the most is you can just tell he's totally secure in it might not be for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you can still enjoy the books, even with the world hopping that's going on, without knowing what the other things are, because he explains it well enough that you get enough to follow the plot and whatever else, but maybe you're not getting all of the Easter eggs and figuring out where Vasher's coming from or why they're doing that weird swear word, or just like you're kind of like, well, that's weird, okay, and you move on, and you don't have to know all the other stuff to still enjoy the story.
Well,
and you can come across like, who's this Thydakar guy? Well, let me tell you, we've got something for you over here. If you want to know more about him, we got a lot.
Well, it's because
you need to know everything.
I remember listening to people who they hadn't read like the Elantris books, and yet they read the Lost Metal, and suddenly when Moonlight shows up, and she's stamping walls, and they temporarily become doors. They're
Super
just
amusing name for somebody on Scadrial too.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I love that for them, because like the conversation that they have where it's like, okay, so you can do magic, and it's like, oh, so burning metal in your chest to get this effect, that's not magic. And it's like, well, no, that's science. What you do is magic. And it's a great little, because the thing is, it puts wonder into, because a lot of people, and I think properly so, they not really criticize, but sort of critique. It's like, the systematizing of magic does sort of rip some of the magic out of things. And
it is the one of the few, in my opinion, downsides of a hard magic system.
And so it's just interesting how with that, at the same time, Brandon has a way to still keep things magical. It just depends upon
a little magic there. Yeah.
How you read it. Well, heck, we talked about the guy who his friends have been bugging him to read the Cosmere, and just to spite them, he started with Era 2 of Mistborn.
That's right.
And then he made a Reddit post because he started Era 1. And at the same time, it's suddenly a very interesting, different read that no one else gets, because he's doing it from the perspective of someone from Era 2, and he's discovering these legends and finding out what a bunch of mortals they are.
Yep.
And seeing that, wow, Vin isn't this like woman of elegance and she's just a really broken street urchin who's trying to find her way in the world. And it's like, so if even this person can like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, I guess there really is no quote unquote correct reading order. It just is.
Well, basically what it is it's like reading a series and then reading prequels, but these are prequels that were written before the main series in your mind. And it really does give you an interesting look at these characters.
Just makes me wonder about just the concept of a reading order. And it's like, does it matter at all? It's like, maybe it doesn't.
Read them in order within a series, but beyond that, I mean, it's like you don't want to read The Well of Ascension and then Secret History.
Yeah, I think that's ill-advised.
That's.
But
that might not be the best decision.
Okay, and then the Cytoverse has basically been handed off to Jancy Patterson, which I think is a great move, because I think Jancy has really done a good job with what she's got with the Cytoverse, and it is an opportunity for Brandon to focus more on the Cosmere. I love that Brandon likes to write stuff outside the Cosmere, and he keeps promising different things, but I also love that Brandon is recognizing that if he's going to finish this before he dies, he's got to focus in on the Cosmere.
Didn't he also say the Cytoverse might be one of the first things that get adapted into?
It's gone through some stages. I don't know. I can't remember where it is.
Partway through a stage.
See, where was it? Skyward Step 4 is what he said.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get down there.
All right, sorry.
But as for the books, again, like I said, Jancy is doing a great job with the Cytoverse. Brandon calls out the fact that their strengths and weaknesses kind of complement each other, and I agree. They actually do a very, very good job. I like Jancy's characterizations of the members of Skyward Flight. So he said to expect the first one of those books sometime in early 2026. Also, we got a little bit of Mistborn knowledge here. He said he's planning on reading her version of book 2. Let's see, between
sometime in July, as my break between book 1 and book 2.
Yep.
Of Ghostbloods.
Which means that he's planning on finishing book 1 of Ghostbloods by July.
Wow.
So awesome. I
mean, that'll just be the first draft, so there was still more work to do beyond there. But exciting.
Okay, so we should probably take a break.
Oh, right, that thing we do.
Indeed, us doing that thing we does. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you in just a moment. And we are done.
Well, for a moment.
Yep, I need to refill my beverage, so I will return shortly.
Sorry, that's really loud.
What is?
My water bottle. Did you hear that?
I wasn't paying attention, if I'm honest.
Okay, well, it is this like groaning sound as I set it down on the wood.
I do that. No, that's just because I'm almost 40.
No, there was conversation going on in the chat where they're like, "Oh man, I'm gonna be like almost 50 when the last Stormlight book comes out in like 2045," and I'm like, I don't want to think about how old I'm gonna be.
How old will I be in 2045? I like thinking about stuff like that. I don't know
I'm gonna
why.
be 60, which is no. I what? No. No.
Yeah, 61. Oh. I don't maybe I'm just a dork. But for me, I just look at stuff like this and I say to myself, isn't it cool that I am going to have a hobby that I'm going to get to do clear into, senior citizen years. Like, to me, that sounds so freaking cool.
It's cool, but it also, I just can't fathom myself being that old.
You just can't handle the mortality of it all.
Yeah, and like it doesn't help that like I'm sitting there going, people were like, "Oh yeah, I'm 25," and they're just talking about stuff, and I'm like, "Wait, I'm not in my 20s. I'm close to out of my 30s." And what? Like, I just don't.
For the record, everyone in chat, I'll be doing a stream on Tuesday for my 40th birthday party. You'll notice that's New Year's Eve. That's my birthday. So it'll be /New Year's Eve party / birthday. So twitch.tv/livestream. I'm going to go use the bathroom now.
Okay. So no, it's a privilege to get old. I feel weird about it. Because I just do.
What do you love, Douglas? We get to do what again? I must have missed part of the conversation.
We were talking about how old we were going to be when Stormlight's done.
Oh, yes.
So I'm guessing it's about that. But I don't
basically that we get to go through a whole other era. We've finished an era, and now there's still a whole other era.
Okay, we're going to do it again.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's going to be different for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's so weird. The layout is set up so differently than I know. Because I'm down a monitor, but my mom's monitor is enormous. So
you're almost making up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how to change my desk so that my back is that way.
Your back is what way?
Is that way.
Okay.
So that my back will be to a wall, which is right there, compared to this. My stairs are over there.
So that you don't have folks walking through the background.
Which, I mean, you don't see them because it's cut off.
Right.
But it's still
at the very minimum for streaming. You'd like to have the option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
and then you can also set up stuff behind you to like have a proper backdrop
or whatever else, or have different art up on that wall that would be like my Bridge 4 poster because it's in my craft room right now. Exactly. And I even got some fun art that is like, it coincides Stormlight and the Barbie stuff, and it's like, this Barbie is blah blah blah, and
like Mistborn Barbie.
No, it's not Mistborn Barbie, but
okay.
But it's talking about, and it has Kaladin. It's like, this Ken is not happy to be here. It's talking about Kaladin.
Is Ken short for Kaladin?
No.
Calican.
Anyway, no. If you guys remind me afterwards, I can show you the art. It's really cute, but it's fun.
Right. Ken's son Mattel,
and it has the different Barbies, and it's all the different Shallan's different personas. It has Vale and Radiant and Shallan. And
so do you need to relaunch it?
Yep. I'll create a new room.
It's the Jordan Show featuring Jordan. Don't tell Bill and Amy I did the Jordan Show without them. Gosh dang it.
Good Life is in my head.
You two flipped somehow. How does that happen? It shouldn't be possible.
Nope. Am I still in the wrong one?
No, you're fine. You're good.
Okay. I guess I'm looking at the stream, and the stream is still slightly delayed.
It's the stream.
So it's fine. It's fine.
It's gonna be fine.
And it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, goodness, so loud.
I still love her.
I don't know.
Have you ever seen the show The Last 5 Years?
Mm-mm.
It's a heartbreaking one, but it's really good. It's
what's it on?
They made a movie. The movie's not nearly as good. Just listen to the soundtrack and you get most of the story.
The Last 5 Years. Okay.
Yeah. The basic premise is it's a couple who fell in love, got married, and then their marriage kind of fell apart. And it's telling the story from her perspective, from his perspective from beginning to end, and her perspective from end to beginning. And basically when one of them is on stage, the other isn't, except for right in the middle at the wedding where they sing a duet. And it's fascinating the way the story is told. And the music is amazing. The story is very well done. It's one of those brilliant, like simple brilliance, because that's kind of one of the things I don't love about the movie is the movie adds in all sorts of sets and all sorts of complexity. And it's just like, no. The way that it was told in the play is amazing.
Just nice and focused on just that.
And it's just utterly heartbreaking. But like, she starts off absolutely heartbroken and singing a song that's just called I'm Still Hurting. And then at the end, you see him kind of going to the downfall and everything's crashing. But then her perspective ends with, I met this guy and there's something there. And it's very hopeful. It's a really just fascinating construction. So
fun.
Yeah. Norbert Leo Butz played the guy in the original recording. So
you made that name up.
He's a famous Broadway actor. He was in the Big Fish musical, and he was in the original Wicked musical.
I have no way of confirming this is true. You're just trying to blow names past me.
There are so many ways to confirm this is true. My roommate is a Philistine, a basement-dwelling Philistine troglodyte.
Even when he lived upstairs, he was a basement dweller.
Oh, man.
Okay. Y'all ready?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Starting this up. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Okay, so let's move on to part 3, which is his updates on secondary projects. Because we had our main projects which were Stormlight and Mistborn and Cytoverse. And now some of the stuff that's kind of been shunted to the side. So first is Elantris, which is Brandon is planning to write the sequel to Elantris immediately after finishing Ghostbloods. And then when it's released, which we'll talk about release dates coming up, but the plan is to be Ghostbloods 1, Elantris 2, Ghostbloods 2, Elantris 3, Ghostbloods 3. So we'll have a pretty quick cadence of books if he hits the schedule.
Yeah, which I mean, he can, as long as and it's with all the support around him he has, it should hopefully make it easier to do it.
But it'll be so nice to actually go back to Cell, considering we haven't had a book based on Cell since The Emperor's Soul.
And that was a novelette.
That was a novella. We haven't had a full book on Cell since Elantris, which is the first book he published.
Ooh, yeah.
So
we know there's stuff going on.
If I'm remembering right, it's supposed to actually follow. I've been in the South.
You warned us. We can't be mad.
To follow
Faller.
Basically Kai's kids.
Okay.
So
we're gonna follow Kai,
otherwise known as Codenames Are Stupid.
I probably won't hate them this time.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Hopefully, yeah.
Brandon has definitely evolved as an author.
Well, and when he wrote them the first time, he didn't have kids.
He didn't have kids, that's true.
And so it was one of those things. I just remember reading it, and I'm just like, this, speaking as someone with no kids, it's like, this is what precocious kids sound like to people who don't have kids, I'm fairly certain. Something about this just didn't feel right.
And even if you do have kids, it doesn't guarantee that you're automatically going to be great at writing them.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so that's coming. And then the Wheel of Time Leatherbounds, we've already talked to this one to death, but they're gorgeous. Hard at work on these for several years now, he says. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that it's been in the works for that long, but makes sense.
He wants those leatherbounds.
He even fully admitted that. He's like, I want them. It's like, so making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Forget you people. I need these things.
So they are going to be pricey.
That was interesting.
It looks like they're going to be between $175 to $200, depending on leather prices and all sorts of prices. The other thing I thought was really, really interesting about this is that Harriet asked, if possible, not to split these up into multiple volumes like he's doing with Stormlight. So, and he said that it looks like they're going to be able to do that, which will be very interesting because some of these Wheel of Time books are enormous.
They're chunky, yeah.
He had a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we've talked about Stormlight Archives, but there was an inspiration for these epically scaled books.
Yeah.
So I'm excited actually about having these large tomes. Maybe he can get Nerdforge to help him out.
I don't know that she's going to want to do it again.
I don't think those can be done at scale.
Just laying out some prototypes.
Yeah.
No, but the thing that was interesting was him talking about how basically they kind of could afford to make their leatherbounds a little bit cheaper because they don't have to pay a royalty or licensing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that I had never paused to consider why they can offer their leatherbounds for cheaper. But once you actually, pause and think, it's like, oh yeah, that does make sense.
But you got to pay the person whose book it comes from.
Yeah. It's just one of those it's really obvious in retrospect.
But this is also Brandon's kind of first step into publishing from outside authors. Because like they probably did some work to help Isaac figure out Monsters Don't Wear Underpants.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And but Isaac is part of Dragonsteel. And Isaac did actually self-publish that. Like Dragonsteel didn't publish that for him, but he probably had some people with a little bit of expertise around that he could consult.
Yeah.
Well, and it was probably a good practice run for them as well.
Mm-hmm. They did say they do intend to do New Spring, which, if you're not familiar, there are the 14 mainline Wheel of Time books, and then there's New Spring, which is a prequel. It started as a short story, ended up being written as a long novella, kind of like Brandon does. And so it will, and they are planning on doing a leatherbound for that one. They're not sure exactly at which point it will be released, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And then The World of the Wheel of Time. This is it's sort of a mini encyclopedia of the Wheel of Time. They're not planning on doing any of this. The rights for those are with a different I don't know if it's a different publisher, but they're just in a different place than the rest of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are planning to be genuine leather, custom made for the series, full color interior illustrations, new chapter symbols, 2-color illustrations. It's going to be good.
That was one of the things he said that blew me away was the fact that the first leather bound was just a printing of 250.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they only did that many of them and just kind of.
Well, for me, as someone who's newer to this stuff, it was just one of those things that when Brandon talks about things that frustrate him about the publishing industry, and you hear that, you're just like, they only thought something as popular as Wheel of Time could sell 250 of these things,
right?
Especially after his Kickstarters and stuff, and
truly limited edition.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that the covers were special, but the insides were the exact same as the other printings.
Normal books, yeah.
But it just, for me, it put me in perspective, his whole thing where he talked about how part of the reason they did the Kickstarter is they wanted to show the publishing industry there's a hunger for this type of, I think the word Brandon likes using is boutique reading experience. And we're going to prove it to you. Cause you then, you look at Tress's, the art throughout Tress, the doodles throughout Frugal Wizard and stuff like that. And it just makes you understand the scale of what he's talking about.
Yeah, Librelita says in chat, imagine if there were only 250 copies of Brandon's Leatherbounds, it'd turn into the Hunger Games. Yeah.
I wouldn't even try that. I'd be like, nope.
Well, that reminds me of, I was at, what's it called? Life, the Universe, and Everything, which is a Utah-based writing symposium. And Brandon was on one of the panels, but he was late getting there. And I was in a panel that he was supposed to be on. And this was right before, probably like a few weeks before the publication of Words of Radiance.
I think it was Oathbringer, wasn't it?
No, it was definitely Words of Radiance.
Was it? Okay.
And the panel was going on, and then suddenly the door just bangs open. Brandon runs in out of breath, and he says, "Hi, I'm Brandon Sanderson, and I wrote this." And he slams it down in front of him. And I just sort of leaned over to the girl I was sitting next to, and I was just like, he may not make it out of this room alive. Because you could just sort of, the whole crowd just gasped collectively, and then you kind of heard people licking their chops. I'm like, oh no.
I'm going to see a zombie outbreak.
Author.
He needs security. Yeah.
Because again, this is before he had full dragon steel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay, so let's see. After the Wheel of Time Leatherbounds, he talks about Songs of the Dead. This is the one that started off as Death by Pizza, and then Death Not by Pizza, and then has become Songs of the Dead because it's like heavy metal magic.
Thing?
Yeah, heavy metal necromancer. And so he's kind of handed this book off to Peter Aurelian. Like they've talked about stuff, but at this point it's Peter's.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited that he's now getting his his team, but it's also his friends involved in his stuff. Mm-hmm. Just because I kind of want to, like, I've been curious. I want to see what Peter's writing style is. Because
well, this is Peter Aurelian. This isn't Peter.
Oh, okay.
Alstrom.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Sorry, all people with vowel names sound the same to me.
Different author or different person.
Yeah.
Who's Peter Aurelian then?
It's a friend of his who's an author.
Okay. He's the guy who's I guess it's still true.
Yeah.
I think he might have written some other stuff. But basically, this is a book written by another author with a lot of the world building done by Brandon, which Brandon's done a lot of that as well. He did the world building for Moonbreakers. He did the world building for Cytoverse and has now handed it off.
Yeah.
And so
maybe taking some cues from George R. R. Martin in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Look, when you become famous, you start getting opportunities you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
I still think there is a chance at some point that he will work with FromSoft to create a world, and I think it would be amazing. Just considering like he actually has been in contact with them at some point. They sent him a package. Oh, good stuff. So yeah.
So just glancing at Peter O'Rulian's Wikipedia page, and he's got his own fantasy series, and he also writes music or something. Yeah. So yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So he's published. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. He talks a little bit again about White Sand. He says, I got through much of the work I needed to do in order to get this ready, as I talked about above, but there's still a lot to do. It's not quite like writing a brand new novel, but it's close. Updating 30-year-old narratives is a fairly big project. I'll try to squeeze in more time for this next year between projects. So, because Brandon is planning on working on multiple Mistborn books next year, which is kind of
crazy,
making me salivate a bit. But
look, he's proven he can write multiple books in 1 year. He just needs another pandemic.
Oh no, we don't need that.
I'm not saying it's worth the price. I'm just saying he's proven it.
No, we not even in jest. Okay, Dark One, which is originally it was a graphic novel that he worked on with Dan, and now he's doing a novel version that apparently storyline wise is actually quite different from the graphic novel. He's working on this with Dan, and once we get to Dan's section, he'll give that update. The other thing is, if you've listened to the audio drama, Dark One Forgotten, I believe it's called, it messed me up. It's the way that Dan writes. Dan, every time I've read something by Dan, I've been just a little bit messed up at the end. So take that as you will. Super Awesome Danger. This was the other secret project, wasn't it?
Yeah. This was like the frog.
The graphic novel that he wrote with his sons.
The young adult or middle adult, whatever it's called.
Middle grade graphic novel.
Middle grade, that's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah. So they're just working on artists finishing.
Which will be really interesting because we've seen some of the early concept art stuff, and I was like, oh, this is intense. This will be fun. So
I'm strangely looking, even though I know it's for a much younger audience, I'm strangely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. After having read the most boring book ever, it'll be interesting to see his sort of more graphic, younger aged stuff. So I think this is where Brandon kind of brandoning all over the place is really going to shine.
That's such a weird verb.
I've just because I've said there are times where I miss Moshe as his editor, because the Brandon stuff, the balance between the two of them was awesome, but this style of book is right up just pure Brandon's alley.
Which I've driven in.
There,
yeah. So,
part 4?
Yep, part 4, updates on minor projects. So Warbreaker and Rhythmatist, these are the next things after he finishes Elantris.
They're in the queue.
They're the next side projects other than Stormlight. Then Reckoners, Alcatraz, and Legion are all done. There may be at some point another Reckoners book with Stephen Bowles, who did
he do
what was
Lux?
The fourth one? Lux.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met him at the first Dragonsteel Minicon.
The Minicon.
He was very nice, yeah.
Nice guy.
No, I'm hopeful for that, just because I think there's a lot more you can do in that universe.
It'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
The original is the novella that he and Mary Robinette Kowal wrote together. It was straight to Audible, and now they've got a release date for the print or ebook version.
Yeah.
So looking for that around May.
Have you guys listened to that one?
I have.
I have not.
It's interesting.
It's an interesting concept.
What's the concept?
So,
honestly, it's very reminiscent to me of what is it, the Sixth Day or the Seventh Day? It was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh,
if I remember
really?
Right.
Okay. So it's
kind of a reminiscent of that concept.
Okay. Not a great film. A lot of fun, though.
No, not a great film. Interesting concept. Then he lists off a whole bunch of Cosmere books that may someday get written. The Night Brigade, Dragonsteel, The Silence Divine, The Grand Apparatus, Mythos, the Aether World book series, Freefall 7-Layer Burrito World.
Yes! Could we talk about 7-Layer Burrito Freefall World? Because I have theories.
Well, that's all we know is this.
Okay, but a Burrito World, I think it might be similar to, gosh, this is going to be a reference. If you've read Howard Schlock Mercenary, do you remember the cylinder world they go to, where it's like a city that's built inside a cylinder, and so you can jump across the city because there's no gravity in the middle, because it's all done centripetally, is how they do it. And so
Weird.
And so it just, the concept of a 7-layer burrito world, the fact he calls it a free fall burrito world, it makes me think of that concept of a area where it's the walls are rotating, and that's how you simulate gravity. And so you could do stuff with that.
See, yeah, the way he's described it, it sounds like just everything is falling. And then and so the city is built in multiple layers, and you kind of just transfer through layers by jumping.
Yeah,
and
it's weird.
You don't want to miss.
I think it might be made by invention. That's my theory. Possible. I know we're way far away from speculation on that.
Oh man.
But I don't know. It's one of those things. The first thing that came to mind, it's like I need to get my way too early predictions in for a book that we may never get.
Yeah.
My voice is doing some funny things. Jordan, can you lay it into the next section?
Yes,
I just need to rest my voice for a little bit, I think.
I will allow this. All right. Crowdfunding. This is the part that was interesting to me. Interesting is the wrong word. I really liked hearing, where he talked about how they're not planning on doing any crowdfunding this year because they haven't completed any of their crowdfund, or they have some crowdfunders that are still out there that they haven't completely fulfilled yet. And they don't want to ask for money until they get the first one done.
Yeah, he's like, we want to focus on, we don't want to just do the next. We want to finish what we promised and do it well, because that's what you guys have relied on, is that we give you what you paid for.
Well, and it gets into a, it almost gets into, it's not actually for a lot of these things, but where it almost becomes like a pyramid scheme, where you need the next one to sort of help you get through the next project. And it's just at a certain point, if you keep going down that cycle, you'll eventually burn yourself out and you won't be fully ready. And so I'm just really happy to hear that they're sitting there, they're thinking about it, because it'd be real tempting after you've done the number 1 and number 3 Kickstarters of all time. To keep trying, because why not? The money's there. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah, and it was a little depressing, kind of. I was glad that he was like, yeah, we're not gonna do this, but he's like, I had to take a baseball bat to fend off the people who would love to have me dupe you all with some crypto or NFT scams. And I'm like, oh man.
See, I found that hilarious, mostly just because anyone who's asking him to do stuff like that, so you really don't know who you're dealing with, do you?
Yeah.
I will say I was actually very excited to read that they're not planning any Kickstarter campaigns this next year, because my wallet has been hurting.
Well, you just got the leather bound for Wheel of Time instead, right?
Yeah.
Those aren't Kickstarter, which means that's the thing. Kickstarters come with other stuff, which means the prices are 3 times as much as the regular, what's it called? Wheel of Time leather bounds.
Okay.
That's the one thing that I find, because I don't know, I kind of look at Kickstarter and say, well, does it have to come with all the extra stuff? Can't you just do a Kickstarter where it's just the thing?
You can. They typically don't do quite as well.
Because you don't have the incentive. past getting
past the thing.
Fulfilling
these big ones are one of the major streams of revenue for Dragonsteel.
Yeah, it's just I thought in particular with the Wheel of Time one, I thought to myself, it's kind of interesting that because I would think that would be, at the very minimum, it's like, let's just make sure everyone who wants it can get it. Mm-hmm. And so you're not sitting there having to figure out and gauge what the interest is. Because that's, that's obviously, we know the number is greater than 250, but I'm just saying that might not be the best market research.
Well, and it's just interesting because some of these are just used as, rather than to kickstart, it's used as kind of a pre-order, which, because like with the Words of Radiance Kickstarter, they had the books already, didn't they? Or many of them.
I don't remember.
I think there were many that like they were already far along to the point where it's like, okay, we're already printing these many.
Yeah, I think they had a lot of the books.
They didn't have all the bonus stuff. They didn't have all the, the goodies and the plushies and all that stuff, but they had a lot. Also, he mentions that they are expecting the Hoyt storybook collection to be crowdfunding. Okay, that makes sense. I'm cool for that. But then he says, and likely when we do the big, guys, this is the complicated one, board game with Brotherwise, that'll be a crowdfunding campaign. And of course, again, I started salivating.
They've done a pretty good job.
Game.
I want it to be called the Crunchy Game.
The Horn-Eater meal of the game.
Oh, man.
Like, what if they actually, like, it's literally going to be called the Crunchy Game, and that was just them being coy?
Stormlight, the Crunchy Game.
The crunchy one.
Crunchy.
I mean, crabs are crunchy.
Yeah.
So it would be accurate. It's basically, it's a board game version of Iron Chef, but on Roshar.
Yeah, I'll allow it. So apparently, as the time of this posting, for the Words of Radiance and Isles of the Emberdark campaign, they had shipped 20,330 packages.
For the record, also, we got to point out this is Kara's section.
Yes, this is Kara's section.
And it's very Kara.
Kara's wonderful.
I loved how she kept working in Cosmere references into her.
Oh, yes.
Hold strong, Tom. Yeah.
Oh no, Kara's just fun. She loves what she does.
But I think that's true of literally anything she does. She just strikes me as the person who's just very present in the moment and is just always having a great time and just exudes that positive energy.
Yeah.
I think she could be like, if she were a garbage collector, I think she'd have the exact same cheerful attitude.
Now, I didn't see any updates on when we should expect the plushies.
There was something about just that it was taking a while, longer than expected.
Yeah, they faced some delays in August and September when they were waiting for playing cards, apparently, and we have all the products we need to fulfill tier reward shipments, and we're just waiting for the coin holder add-ons.
So I am very intrigued to see what those plushies' final forms look like when they arrive. We just as more evidence, though, Jordan, it may be an else color, but he wants to be a Dustbringer.
I've been very clear about this. I wish I were a Dustbringer. I like their ideals.
Their aesthetic.
The aesthetic is the bigger one. Like the in particular, it's just look, the ash spread look a lot cooler than
they look horrible. They look terrifying.
As I said, they look a lot cooler than the ink spread.
I had fun being a Dustbringer for a day.
See,
I had
Amy
people
gets
ask
me.
if I was Vin. Yeah, my son's a Dustbringer, so it's fine.
Plus, red and black is just a great color
combination. I know.
That's the bigger thing. It's just they have the better colors. It's all red and black or orange and black, and they just look good. That is
my biggest frustration with being an Edge dancer is it's baby blue and white, and I'm just like,
but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's baby beautiful.
Yeah. So
that is a color joke brought to you by Jordan Davis.
So Johnny O'Neill from Brotherwise filled us in a little bit more on the Cosmere RPG, which again I'm excited about.
You skipped over Peter.
Oh, did we skip over? I apologize.
Peter doesn't get, like, his is just not bold, but he's just saying it's just the one paragraph saying that they've proofread Isles of the Emberdark and the last bit of typesetting. So they're just saying, like, we're plugging along, we're doing good stuff. We're going to start working on the audiobook.
Yeah.
It's just that little bit there.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Johnny O'Neill from Brotherwise chimes in and tells us about the Cosmere tabletop games. The Mistborn deck building game immediately sold through its first 2 printings.
Yeah, well, I mean, heck, we were there. Friend of the show, been on, Roger, was talking about how he was trying to buy it at the convention, and it sold out before he could even get there.
Yep.
And it's like there might be more the next day, so we're gonna try and get that. Yeah, he was able to get it, but even at the convention, it was hard to get a hold of it.
That's why I haven't even tried. I'm just like, I'm not gonna try.
It's really good.
Just so y'all know, the fact that he mentions that it reached #1 on the Board Game Geek The Hotness Top 50.
I was going to ask about that. Okay, why is that a big deal?
Very, very big deal.
Now that you mentioned it, I was like, I meant to ask you about this.
Board Game Geek is kind of the biggest board game. It's kind of like Board Game Wikipedia.
Okay.
Except the stuff that everybody is looking into and checking out and wanting to know more about, that is what the hotness is based on.
So it's sort of like if Wikipedia and Steam were combined?
A little bit.
Okay.
So so if you hit hit #1 on the hotness, people are looking into this game. They want to know about this game. They want to check it out. This is a very, very big deal in my opinion when it comes to board games. Like, just getting on the hotness is a big deal. Getting to #1 is pretty stinking cool.
Nice.
Well, I mean, played it. It's a lot of fun.
I think the Reckoners actually did get to #1 on the hotness, which is why, as part of the campaign, one of the stretch goals was, if they get to #1, there is an epic called The Hotness. What? So, let's see.
But yeah, if you have a chance to try it out, you definitely should try out the Mistborn. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those games you can safely play it with friends who've never read Mistborn, but there's just a lot of really fun references and stuff if you have read it.
Yep. The Cosmere RPG stuff is trucking along. It looks like they're right on track to hit the September 2025 release date. So I'm looking forward to it. And then, of course, the Mistborn stuff will come shortly after. And yeah, just a lot of support from the team at Dragonsteel. It sounds like Brandon is really excited about the way this partnership has panned out. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that, because it sounds like both teams are very, very excited about the project, which means we're getting a lot of effort on both sides. So, okay, part 6, Hollywood and video games. So Brandon.
He's our favorite
Brandon
author.
kind of goes in and gives us a layout of all of the different phases and steps into how this works. One of y'all want to kind of go through that?
Sure, I can do it. So phase 1, you have the initial option, which is several steps. There's pitching it, which is step 1, which is where you're like, hey, I've got this cool book or this cool property. Would you like to make something? And then step 2 is interest. And this is kind of doesn't always line up with step 1, where it's someone goes, hey, I really like your book. Can we maybe make something with it? And, and then you have lots of meetings. And apparently Brandon's had a lot of meetings in the step 2 kind of thing where people are trying to feel him out as a creator and see if they want to try and do stuff with his properties. And then step 3 is where things are optioned. But
so I see this kind of as like you're selling dibs.
Yeah. You're saying, I want dibs on it, and it can sit for a long, long time. And this is how Wheel of Time had the weird Red Eagle thing happen, because they still had the option and they made sure to get something out like the day before it expired.
That was my introduction to Wheel of Time, not because I watched it, but because Kamizite, who's a friend of the show, is a big fan of Wheel of Time. And I hadn't heard of it, but he just started complaining to me. It's like, oh my freaking goodness, Billy Zane. Like, it just started going off on that. And I'm just like, I don't know what's happening right now, but
what?
I could tell you're upset.
So that's where you're holding dibs on it, basically.
Yeah. This is why a lot of weird adaptations of books will come out, like, oh, if you want to see something insane, look up the original Hobbit movie from back in the, I think the 60s.
Is it like is it one of the animated ones?
It was an animated one, but it was animated like Sherman and Mr. Peabody. It was like Bullwinkle style animation and narration. It was very, very odd, and the story was changed. There was a princess in it for some reason. They changed the dragon's name to Slag. Oh, it was all kinds of special. Apparently it was made like in just a couple of weeks or something. It was insane. But they did that so that they would keep the rights, because the rights were about to expire. And if you continue to release, then you hold the rights. It was nuts.
And then we have phase 2, which is development. And he says, like, the order can kind of go in and out and flow, but this is generally the order that he has there. Is step 4 is the script, and that's where you get a script written. And you bring on a showrunner usually, who kind of screenwrites as well as manages screenwriters. It can take a long time, and then you have to get everybody to kind of agree on it. And then step 5 is attachment. So the script is done. The producers will try to get some kind of big name attached. So like a lead star and just a director, enough people to get a studio or a streamer to pay attention. And then it can kind of grow from there. Step 6 is the studio signs on. And this is where a lot of the big money comes in. And with the great script and pitch, you can get the studio to jump in and start bankrolling, and then it can move faster. And then step 7.
This is when you start potentially, though, having executive meddling, where they're just like, oh, let's do this, let's change this. And that's why a lot of times things can break down, because creative differences.
Yeah. Well, it's also whenever people are wondering, it's like, why are there so many bad video game adaptations, book adaptations, so many bad adaptations? It's because, what's the phrase, like, too many cooks spoil the broth or something like that.
Yes. Yep. That's it.
And it's just one of those things where this is a huge project that requires a lot of people's money. And when it's your money, you kind of want to have a say in it because it's your money. And so there's a lot of people who have the ability to say no to things. And it's hard for one person to get a vision through.
Yeah, when creative things are designed by committee, it's really hard for something good to happen.
And it's just like a movie by definition is always going to be created by a committee, because there are so many different things that you have to consider, and you just, it matters. And so, when you have that many...
I feel like a lot of the... I feel like a lot of the movies and stuff that have stayed more true to stuff have had a very strong voice in it, who's going, no, I have enough of the money and enough of a force here, enough power to be like, no, it's going to be this way, and I'm going to keep it reined in. And
or
far more rare.
Or the studio doesn't have as much hopes for it, so they're sort of just their eyes are elsewhere.
Right.
Like I'm kind of thinking of like Dune, like how that one. I haven't read Dune, but my husband has, and he said like, no, this is like almost spot on.
It's
and I'm
a brilliant adaptation.
I enjoyed it.
So, I liked the movies. I haven't tried the books. Mm-hmm. So,
it's just one of those things that it's very interesting. I love him laying out this process.
It's very much appreciated. And I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to like reprint this in future versions.
Well, he said he would, didn't he?
I think he said he's going to have like a link or something, because I don't blame him for not wanting to have to type it on. Be like, no, if you need to know it's right here. Here's your hyperlink. And then step 7 is studio development. This is where it gets greenlit, and then they're going to review the script, ask for rewrites, and this is kind of where it also can die.
Well, it's because this is the part where everyone who agreed on it has gotten it to this point, and it's like, okay, now you're getting the input of the people who have to approve it, and
sometimes they think they make pilot episodes or whatever like that, and sometimes it's not even with the final cast. And then you have phase 3, which is production. So final approvals is step 8, and that's sorry, I'm skimming again. So they're exercising their options, the studio, whoever it is, the producer, and they managed to get it. Let's see. So they have like 5 years often.
So this is the part where I was talking about, where if they put something out within a certain amount of time, they keep the rights. It's also why Sony continues to make Spider-Man adjacent movies.
I can see. Yep, that makes more sense.
It's definitely not because of the quality.
Because they want to hold on to those rights. And so that's why you're getting all of their, like, Miss Webb and Morbius and all that side stuff, just because they're holding on to the rights.
Because they don't want to let go. You should just make more of the Spider-Verse ones. Those are good. Let's see. So he said
Greenlight.
Yeah, and Wheel of Time is the only one of his quote unquote properties that has moved past step 8. And then step 9 is actually being greenlit, and then you start making the thing. And then step 10 is when it gets released. And so sometimes things will get shelved in the end of step 9. They won't they'll make it, but they go, this isn't very good. And then they just never release it.
Yeah. Famously the original Fantastic Four film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like there was something else recently that got shelved.
Yeah. Batgirl got shelved.
Where apparently the studio looked at it and just said, guys, we're not making it. It's going to be cheaper to just shelve it forever and take the tax write-off. And you're just like, which the issue is, whenever you do something like that, that just makes the public want to see it more. They're like, how bad was this?
Yeah,
I want to know. And the thing is, it might not be that bad, but it's just one of those things where they're looking at
that it won't make money.
They're going to lose money on it. So it's cheaper to get the tax write-off. And so, but it gives the impression that we might be looking at The Room or something. And it's like, it might not be that bad. It's just not financially feasible. Which, as a fan of comic books, I appreciate people not releasing bad films.
Yeah. And then he goes into where some of his properties are. So Snapshot is in studio development for television, so it's pretty far along, so about step 7. Skyward has been optioned for television and is looking for a showrunner, so step 4.
Let's talk about Snapshot. So Snapshot, I think, is an underappreciated piece that he did. It's very, very short.
I still need to read it. I haven't read it.
Brandon actually has released it as it's in a 2-part book. There's Snapshot, and then if you flip the book, like if you rotate the book 180 degrees, then it's Dreamer. So they're in the same book, and they're both at the front of the book. It's just the back of the book is the front of the other book.
So do you only read?
So they're separate stories.
So you don't read the back side of the pages, or is it just?
No, you read the whole thing. It's just they meet in the middle.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out like how that worked.
Yeah. But it's just two books in one, and you read both of them back to front, and both of them are at the front of the book, or you read both of them front to back, and both of them are the front of their respective book.
Okay, yeah, I need to.
Very similar to my mom had a copy of Babar, like about the elephant when I was little, and it was similar.
I haven't thought of Babar in decades. My goodness.
Babar. And then Skyward, as I said, has been an option for television, so they're looking for a showrunner. So that could be really cool. And then Tress is...
I want to talk about this one.
So let's see. After going and doing pitches all this year, we are in the later interest stage for an animated television show, with maybe an offer of an option coming soon. So in step 2.
This one is intriguing. Tress is an animated TV show. That could be very interesting. Especially depending on the style of animation.
Is it going to be like Arcane, or is it going to be like Ghibli, or is it going to be
the first thing that came to my mind, which is probably not what they'll do, but for some reason this is the first thing that I pictured was, have you ever seen the Book of Kells?
Yeah.
No.
I've seen similar stuff. No, okay. I have seen that one. I haven't seen the other one.
It's almost like a paper cutout style.
Yeah. It's very stylistic, but it's very pretty.
Very stylistic, but for some reason that's what my brain pictured for it. Now I can totally see it being more like a Ghibli style,
because it would flow well that way.
It would be very good for Ghibli, I think, especially with like the Midnight Essence.
Oh yeah,
like Ghibli knows how to do Midnight Essence type stuff.
All the Aethers, they would do well with that.
But at the same time, I could also see. I don't know what to call it other than the Into the Spider-Verse style, where it's 3D that masquerades as 2D.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that could be very good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the newer things could be really cool that way.
Well, and again, I like that. I'm really liking it's the smaller. Well, I mean, Tress is a full book, but relatively smaller things are
standalones.
The standalones are what they're starting with.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it makes it.
No, it's the whole story.
Yeah. Well, and it's also if you need to learn, like if you have to have some hard lessons, you haven't spoiled the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You can afford to make some mistakes because, like, mistakes will be made. Like that's unavoidable. That's just reality.
Something's gonna get jammed up, yeah.
Yeah, because you're trying something new for the first time. Like even if it goes well, there's going to be things you're like, ooh, we could have done this better. I could have developed that. This took too long because I dragged my feet here or fought for something there that it turns out that wasn't really that important in this adaptation and blah blah blah.
Mm.
And so I like them going for smaller things to start, not taking the big swing.
Which, I mean, they took the big swing with Mistborn, because apparently it got to step 6 or 7.
Yeah,
as a live action film, but it's step 0 right now because the studio didn't want to agree with the producers, and so it just kind of fizzled.
Unpopular opinion. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad that right now I don't think Hollywood can handle Mistborn right now. I think they need to do some rebuilding, some just improving, and I'm glad that Mistborn is not ready for film just yet.
Is there any strikes going on? Because I know they had the writer-actor strike, and then they had
not currently. I don't think.
Because I keep having things like that popping up, and I'm like, please don't kill any projects I care about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want them to be taken care of too, but I also don't want shows to die just because of bad timing.
But I also think that Brandon is in a good place where he is starting to learn more and more and more about how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way he's going as he learns more.
Yeah.
So I'm okay for him to have some more time to figure this out before heading to.
Yeah. So anyway, he says that Skyward and Snapshot are the only ones that he doesn't hold the rights for, and so he's like, so I can kind of do things as I feel good about it, So keep your expectations tempered for now.
Skyward's an interesting one just because it's so much newer compared to his other stuff, but it's one of those things. As soon as they said it's one of the ones that's further along, I'm sort of, even as someone who didn't particularly enjoy it as much as I have his other works, it's sort of like I immediately see like actually that that could work. Like this is a bad comparison because it's associated with not quality, but like CW, like if you get CW level quality like the Arrowverse, where there's actually a budget behind it and you get good actors, like something like that could sustain itself.
Yeah, I mean, Supernatural had like what 15 seasons.
Oh heavens, Supernatural is in a league of its own in that regard.
Thing. No, it's crazy. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of other different series they have on there that just go and go and go. Yeah. So,
well, and I wonder, like, if for someone like me who struggled, and I think it's 100% because I didn't like being in Spence's head, and so I'd be very interested to see if being outside of her head, if I might enjoy it. Yeah, I might enjoy that more because that's Brandon doesn't normally write in first person. So
did you read the Skyward Flight books?
No, I didn't. I got partway through book 2 of the main series and kind of fell off.
Okay.
And so,
you might enjoy Jancy's books. So,
but at the same time,
different viewpoints.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to know, of course, which I apparently don't get to know, is which stars were at that point attached to Mistborn.
Yeah, he says he can't tell us.
He says, yes, you'd recognize some of the names, and no, I can't tell you, but it wasn't Henry Cavill.
Which means, of course, we can blatantly speculate it was, of course, Tom Cruise and Scarlett Johansson as Vin.
She's too old for it.
Yeah, Nathan Hollywood does stuff Tudyk, like that.
A time-traveling Summer Glau to play Vin.
That was the holdup. They had to invent time travel to make things work.
Exactly.
Gotta go back and you gotta film this now.
Okay, well, let's move on to part 7, which is news from the company. We'll start with Queen Emily herself. And did y'all see that there's actually a pin of Queen Emily?
Yes.
She's actually wearing her crown and holding a sword, and it's kind of awesome.
No, I hadn't seen this. Gotta Google that now.
But she's basically just saying, hey, 2024 has been kind of awesome. She's doing a lot of balancing. Life is a balancing act. And they're already planning Dragonsteel 2025 or Nexus 2025. But yeah, I'm looking. Yeah. Emily's awesome. She was really fun at the fan holders meeting because like you could tell she genuinely cares about each of these people. Like they're not employees, these are her friends and family. Even the ones that aren't related by blood, she sees them as family, and she just does a great job. And so I'm excited about the work that she's getting done.
I gave her my Jawa card too.
Did you?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I gave it to her on Saturday night.
So. Awesome. Wait, you weren't dressed as the Jawa on Saturday?
I wasn't. I said, but I gave her I had the Jawa cards with me though.
Okay.
And I was like, I was the Jawa yesterday. She's like, oh, okay. And so I gave her the card.
Cool.
Do you think she'll use you for any Jawa services?
Probably not, but that's okay.
Who knows? Lightweaver Foundation. This is run by Brandon's sister Jane, married to formerly assistant Adam, now head of marketing Adam. And she's the director. Like I said, she's the director of the Lightweaver Foundation. So their booth was next to ours at the very first Dragonsteel Nexus. And
that was such a good booth.
Just absolutely charming to work with. I loved them all. And it sounds like
they were over at Radisson this time.
Yeah, they were over at the Radisson up on the second floor, and they had a Hoyd who was there where you could pay him to insult you, and they were selling ornaments. I got a little sill ornament for my Christmas tree because they have an ornament every year, and this was my favorite one from this year. So, and apparently over those 3 days, they earned $100,000 of donations for these causes.
Yeah, they had rock candy. They had like the different order, radiant order ornaments. And apparently I didn't ever know how to do it, but apparently you could pre-order pictures with Mistborn Santa.
Okay.
So,
which if you hear the phrase Mistborn Santa and you're like, what the crap are you talking about? That you will show up for our next episode.
Yeah. Also, one thing that's really cool. So the World Hopper Ball was the big event that it featured. It was basically based around Adolin and Shallan's wedding. Mm-hmm. And it was fancy. You had to pay extra to get in, but they also, as part of the entry, I think everyone got a goblet.
Yeah, you got
like a fancy goblet as a take home souvenir, and they were also selling them at the World Hopper Foundation, or not the World Hopper, the Lightweaver Foundation, mm-hmm. and those will be available on the Lightweaver Foundation website starting in January sometime. And all of the funds go directly to the organizations they're supporting. So, and like I said, they are gorgeous goblets, so worth checking out.
Very, very pretty. And they have women's script around them that people have translated.
Oh, what do we know what they say then?
I think it's the wedding Katek.
Okay.
That I can't remember if it's Yasna or Shallan writes, but I think it's the wedding Katek. I could look it up and find it somewhere.
It translates roughly to "never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to run around."
Now, if somebody does that,
no, that's if Hoyt had written it.
No, I just need to figure out women's script.
Shard rolled.
It's scary.
Okay, well, let's see. Moving on to editorial. So, Wind and Truth, Isles of the Emberdark, and the 3 Story Deck stories, which we'll talk about more in our next episode. Mm-hmm. The Story Deck stories were a fun little project that came out and kind of took over at Nexus this year. Mm-hmm. And it continues now because now Brandon has invented book trading card stuff.
And apparently this was some project that he and Dan have been thinking about for a while.
They've probably been dreaming about this since the days of the Time Wasters Guide.
I feel like I remember hints or something in Intentionally Blank episodes where they've talked about trading cards or something like that. But I didn't connect the dots until just now where I was like, oh, it's probably those random comments that were part of the planning for this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, they're basically just working to make everything come out. Stormlight 5 was 495,000 words, including the text from the illustrations and such. Mm-hmm. Beta reader comments totaled 1.3 million words. That's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words.
That is a very lot.
Mm-hmm.
Were they radiant though?
Maybe they were of radiance. And then Kara comes back and starts telling us about merchandise. It's hard to keep a good
Kara down.
Because Kara's just fun.
She is.
We loved having her on the show. I'd love to have her back. I don't know if, she may be too cool for us at this point.
Busy more like it, but yeah.
But yeah, so, because she's been running like all of the crowdfunding stuff and,
the cons and everything too.
What's that?
She does the conventions and stuff too.
Yep. And apparently there are now Spren plushies filling the warehouse. So 7 new character pins. She says Lift is her favorite. Lift wasn't my favorite rendition of Lift, but that's cool. That's right. The Stormlight hoodie, which you saw so many people wearing around the convention.
People paid.
It's sort of got like the two-toned baseball sleeve style hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
And
they looked really pretty. I should have just bought one, but I didn't.
Yeah. They redid the web store this year. Light Day, there were over 20,000 orders. Yep. The warehouse team is going nuts. And then they've also gone to 5 major conventions last year.
Mm-hmm. PAX East, C2E2, Gen Con, FanX, and Dragonstone Nexus 2024. And then she talks about Story Deck a little bit there.
Right, because they had to produce it after it was designed and Made ready. The Eye of the World leather bond coming up. The World Hopper Ball. I mean, Kara's been busy. Let's just say that. I think like 80% of Dragonsteel's employees work under Kara's department.
It's a big group.
I just love her opening line. Hello, everyone. It's Kara with a peek through the M&E perpendicularity.
I know, it's like, oh, there we go.
That's merchandise and event. Yeah.
She's putting in a lot more effort into her post than some of the others.
Oh, she's having so much fun. And that's one of the things that's just great about Kara and why we love her so much is just whatever she's doing, she is having the best time.
Kara's good people.
So they're doing Spain next year. They're doing several other conventions, but she doesn't list them. And then it goes to operations.
Yep, which is Matt.
Yeah.
Trying to think. So yeah, they've expanded the facility. They've got a new location where everybody's working together. What?
They're in one building now.
Yep. And because they over the past years they've been moving new locations, getting new warehouses, getting new warehouses, and they over the past year they hired 15 employees across 4 departments.
250 squires.
They also 250 squires because that's one thing that was really cool that they did this year at Dragonsteel Nexus. Because in the past they've had volunteers, and this year they're like, no, we want to pay our quote volunteers.
Yeah.
These people do hard work. We want to pay them what they're worth.
Yeah.
And I love that they call Emily the Queen of Special Ops.
Yeah. Yep.
She probably loves that they call her the Queen of Special Ops too.
It'd be great, yeah.
I mean, she's the one who made her title.
Right. Well, he's just like, can I be queen?
Well, there's nothing against it. Okay, could be queen then.
So one thing, there's probably a bunch of people out here listening who want to work for Dragonsteel. He said that he doesn't expect there to be a whole lot of hiring this next year, but keep an eye on their jobs page at BrandonSanderson.com if you are interested, because that's where you'll see it.
Yeah.
And then we move to Adam, who he is the disembodied voice that you hear during Brandon's streams, who's asking the questions, like reading the questions from people and stuff. And he's in charge of publicity and marketing. He started, I think, at one point as Brandon's personal assistant. A lot of the higher ups kind of did that. Peter did the same. And
everyone's working their way up.
Yeah, video editing and just talks about the different
marketing coordinators, new video editors. Remember at the beginning of the year we did an episode on the Say the Words series.
Yeah.
And so all of the cool videos that you're seeing on Brandon's YouTube channel, this is them.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize that they had the Cognitive Realm blog, which is kind of a secondary blog to Brandon's personal blog.
Yeah, this was new to me as well.
Yeah.
He talks about a lot of collaborations they've done with Nerdforge, Travis Gafford, Holly Black, Brian McClellan, and more. Brian McClellan, also known as Discount Brandon, according to Hoyd, was it?
Yes. So we'll talk about it the next episode, but there was a panel with a bunch of authors, and then Hoyd showed up and started roasting them all, and it was amazing.
Great. Oh man, I miss all the fun things.
You were too busy saying Utani.
Yeah, they're basically just doing a whole lot of work. It looks like they're going to do another series of Brandon's writing class, which Brandon's posted, I think, 2 series of his lectures now over, from different years. And this one, most of them have just been, cheap camera, cheap stationary camera in the back. This looks like it's going to be more produced.
Yeah, because he's got the people now.
Exactly. So he's got people who know what they're doing,
and judging by those view numbers, there's a hunger for it. So putting some production into it's going to be well worth the time.
Yep. And then Dan, we move on to Dan's section, which is narrative. And he says, Brandon's covering most of what I have to say. They did a lot of book projects already detailed, but Story Deck was kind of Dan's baby. Mm-hmm. So, and it says it took 2 years of work, and every department in the company played a huge part in getting it created and published and out into the world.
And they're planning to do more several years down the road. So it's like,
yep.
Oh, what is this?
My favorite though is his lightning rounds. Do you mind if I just read it? Because I love just how he did it.
Sure.
Yes, I am working on a new series in the Cosmere. No, it isn't about Threnody. No. Yes, I will inevitably write something about the Night Brigade. No, I can't tell you when any of it comes out. Yes, we are working on a non-Cosmere projects. No, I won't tell you about any of those either. Yes, they are awesome.
It's like you keep back and forth like excitement. Oh no!
You're the best fans in the world. Take care of each other and be kind to yourselves. But
I do find it amusing that in Brandon's section, when he talked about Dark One, he said, "I'll let Dan tell you about that." And when Dan got to it, he says, "Dark One continues to trudge along."
He told us about Dark One.
He did say.
We know it trudges. That's how it moves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And then there's creative development, which is Isaac. Ta-da! Who, Isaac, if you'll remember, was, I believe, the first Dragonsteel interview we had on the show.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And he's just awesome. So, let's see. Ben McSweeney is now working in office at Dragonsteel and is in charge of Prime Art, which... we'll talk about that in a bit. And then they came out with Dragonsteel holiday cards, which I think I remember seeing one in the store at Dragonsteel Nexus. Did y'all see others?
I didn't notice them.
No.
Okay.
They're getting in on our gig.
But yeah, they're getting like, so Sean Boyles, Ben McSweeney, awesome people. And then let's see, Book of Nails. That's right. This is Isaac's Cosmere book, and this is the story of Nikki Savage, or Nicelle Sauvage.
Nikki Savage is just much more marketable.
Yeah, she's kind of, if you're familiar with Alamancer Jack, she's another adventurer, but she seems to have the more scrappy personality from what I've seen.
Yeah. Oh, so the holiday cards. They have Mistborn Santa. They have Santa in shard plate with like a shard. It's a Christmas tree. It's a shard sword, and it has.
We saw the shard sword because he was walking around it. Nexus.
But this is it's not Mistborn Santa. He's got armor on.
Right, but he was carrying the sword around.
Yes.
Radiant
it looked
Santa.
like a Koloss blade.
Yeah, Radiant. Yeah. And there's Nightblood singing, making a list and checking it twice. Gonna find out who's naughty or nice. And then there's
that's a bit dark.
And Steris has a big old list.
Skybreaker Santa.
Showing it to Santa, and she says, "I checked it 3 times." And then we have Santa on a sleigh being carried by Bridge4 running away from a chasm fiend. Those are the different.
That's amazing.
So I just found them on
absolutely amazing.
Anyway,
can you imagine sending those to your family who have no idea who Brandon is?
That'd be their daily experience, just talking to me. They're just like, I don't get what he does anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
The thing I like about the Nikki Savage stuff, I love the thing where he's talking about how because we got a peek at her through the broadsheets. But I like that he's saying we're going to get the novel's actually going to present the real version of events, and it's not going to be the broadsheets version.
Which is totally played up, I'm sure, because if you're putting in the broadsheets, it's going to be amped up even more.
Yeah, well, because she's the one who writes. It's very similar to Alamancer Jack, where they're really going on these adventures, but they gotta spike it up a bit for the audience.
Spike it up.
Thank you. I was proud that joke landed. Anyway, no, but I also so I like that. What's her real name? Nicelle Sauvage, and it's like Nikki Savage, boom, hit it. We'll do that, yeah. We could do that's way more marketable.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So we are running over time, so we got to kind of rush through this last bit. So definitely check out. Isaac goes into specialty books. He talks about the prime art, which shows us characters, settings, items for the very first time. There's a lot of that going on with Brotherwise for the miniatures and for the RPG and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did not realize the time.
And then they worked for like the World Hopper Ball, which is kind of cool because they presented live action versions of these characters.
Yeah.
Should we just skip ahead
to merch coming down the pipeline? Let's see. And then the future. What?
Should we just skip to the future schedule?
He worked on King Lope and the First of Alucard, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Okay, we'll skip the international releases because those are very, very specific. But there are they go to
lots of
they have reports from the publishers in Brazil, Bulgaria, France, Germany, more Germany, Italy, Poland. Spain and Latin America, Taiwan, Turkey, Ukraine. So there's a whole lot to notice. So if you're interested in those specifics, he has words from each of those publishers to
check those out. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Jordan, you want to talk about the projected schedule?
Yes, because it's interesting because it has switched around a bit. But fall of 2025, we're going to get the Isles of Ember Dark crowdfunding fulfillment.
Okay, so fall, not summer. A little bit later than I.
Which, given the fact that they're fulfilling other Kickstarters currently, makes sense. It gets pushed back a bit. And then December, Tailored Realities, which is the collection of short stories that's going to be coming out for Dragonsteel.
Nexus.
Then in early 2026, Isles of Ember Dark, the Tor release.
Right. Because with each of the secret projects, you have the deluxe Dragonsteel release, and then a year later, Tor does their release.
Yeah. Then spring, summer 2026, Skyward Legacy 1 ? Which they did say that they think they got a better title for it than Skyward Legacy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's more he doesn't want to speak for Jancy on her writing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it may fluctuate when she gets it done.
But then December 2026, which this would be the Dragonsteel Nexus, almost said Expo. It's either going to be Dark One or Isaac's Cosmere novel. I'm holding out for Isaac's Cosmere novel.
That'd be cool.
And then sometime in 2027, Dark One or Isaac's Cosmere novel. So
whichever one doesn't come out. Now he says sometime 2027. You notice there's not a necessarily a confirmed Dragonsteel Nexus 2027 book release.
I'm sure they'll still have.
Obviously, but who knows what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Secret project. Anyway,
maybe it'll be Brandon's FromSoft game because I still believe that's going to happen. So
then December 2028, the year we're all
indication of that from Dragonsteel. So please do not think I'm putting words in their mouth. He
has sources say.
No.
The December 2028 Ghost Bloods 1. So we are only 4 years away, my friends. It's good. It's right around the corner. Then summer 2029 Elantris 2. Then December 2029 Ghost Bloods 2. To summer 2030, which I can't believe we're discussing 2030. Elantris 3. December 2030, Ghost Bloods 3. So that would be 3 straight Mistborn books for Dragonsteel.
Yes, that'll be a very, very misty
thing, yeah.
And then December 2031, Stormlight 6. So for those of you holding out for Roshar, you only gotta wait 7 years. Although we will get the Horn Eater
somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Also, again, just as a reiteration, we're doing Mistborn, Elantris, approximately 6 months apart. So that'll be a very, very rich. In 4 years, we're going to start getting Cosmere coming out our ears.
And to be honest, I fully expect. Like I made a joke about a secret project. I fully expect there to be one more Roshar. Novella,
Horn Eater?
Yeah, I don't know. My gut tells me he has a secret one brewing somewhere that he can't talk about because he can't commit to it just yet.
Just have to wait and see. Read and find out.
To be honest, what I think it is, I'm hoping it's what it's called. I think we're going to be getting Roshar Secret History. And I think he had somewhere down the line, he has some sort of, someone was doing something in the background during.
We'll see what Felt's been up to, or
I don't. Yeah, who knows who? But I just feel like you know what? Maybe Chanarach.
Oh.
I could totally see it being about one of the, like, if again, and this is pure speculation, but it being about one of the Ghostbloods from, like, I could totally see it being about Felt, just because he's been hanging around. He's fairly loyal to Kelsier. It sounds like Secret History is kind of tied to Mistborn in my mind.
Eotil could be another good one.
Could be. I could see her featuring in it.
Yeah. Or
I think I'm latched on to Felt.
Got Maraise.
So
that'd be craziness.
Okay. Well, this is exciting. This has been very, very exciting. And very, very, very long.
Yes.
These episodes tend to go that way. There's a lot of news.
Well, we love hearing from our listeners, so please keep sending in questions. You can ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. And while you're at it, we would love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on with the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and hopefully we could read that as part of the show. We're not doing one tonight because, holy cow, this has been a very, very, very long episode. You can also reach us at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. We do have our own personal projects going on outside of the podcast. So, Jordan, why don't you lead us off and let us know what you have been up to?
I played Path of Exile most recently on my stream, Path of Exile 2, I should say. And as someone who has played precisely like 45 minutes of a Diablo game, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. But the big thing is I'm having a birthday bash for my 40th birthday on December 31st. So yes, it's also a New Year's Eve party. So, but yeah, we're just going to
set off fireworks for you.
Darn straight they are every year. I'm a big deal.
It's always a minute late.
Yeah, but no, so we'll have an amiibo tournament. But I'm also going to be having, like marbles on stream, GeoGuessr, and try to do a bunch of interactive stuff as well. So, if you're watching this live, stop on by. If you're watching this in the past, time travel back and you can join us.
Awesome. And Amy, how about you?
My Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidencecosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. I'm kind of in the chill out mode with my crafting, so I'm hopefully actually going to post things, and I don't know, it'll be random, whatever that happens to go up. So I have a backlog of way too much stuff to post, so there's probably going to be something interesting, hopefully. So yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And then I'll promote Jordan's other podcast that I help him out with sometimes, called I Think We Overleveled. Basically a bunch of Jordan's friends from college. We're middle-aged nerds who like to reminisce about the glory days, remember what it was like back when we first experienced this. What were your favorites from that? Yada, yada, yada. All sorts of reminiscing and a little bit of, good-natured grumbling about kids today and get off my lawn. But yeah, lots of fun. We've kind of been on hiatus for the past several weeks just because, stuff has been happening, what with Thanksgiving existing and Dragonsteel Nexus and all that other stuff. But we'll probably have some coming up soon, I'm expecting. So
the next episode we are going to do, even though it'll be a day late for it, year in review of 2024, where we sort of just talk about what we played over the year.
Awesome. All right. Well, for those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become a patron just yet, We would love it if you just let your friends know about the show, spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies, to leave comments down below and, discuss the show and what you thought stood out from the State of the Sanderson, etc. We'd love that as well. And if you toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, we definitely wouldn't hate that. Okay, final thoughts?
Brandon, keep us well informed, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto.
I am pleased with the direction where things currently sit and the direction they seem to be going. So I enjoyed this particular State of the Sanderson. Okay. Well, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, we'll finally be doing our Dragonsteel Nexus retrospective. There was a lot that went on this year, so you'll want to join us in chat for the live discussion on Monday, January 13th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
there's always another secret.
Ooh, my voice started going out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, are we going to have
to was my voice out?
It's been doing funny stuff tonight. I feel like it's just air-based, like what air is in my lungs and won't come out or something. I don't know. Because if I end up sort of belching a little bit, it comes back better. So I don't know what's up.
Well, gang,
it's happened before, but yeah.
Heard that one.
Yep, there it was for you.
On that note, everyone, it's late. We're going to go to bed.
You didn't know you wanted.
Yes, we are.
Put that one at the very end of the
the belch.
Yeah, at the very end.
Not a word Amy said. It's a Bill sound.
No promises.
All right. Well, gang, we'll see you later.